Starts now, but there's nobody here yet. So let me tag you. I'll tag you that way you can have access to it. Let's see here. Tracy. Oop. Let's see here. Edit. And at. Okay. There you are. Boom. Done. Oh, we got 5 people in the house. They're coming. So we have a new friend, which is always cool. Hi, Ann and Heather. Yeah, we have a new friend. Actually, you had sent me some messages before. And then I looked at something. I think this is how it went, but I just demonstrated to you a minute ago. My memory's not perfect. But I think I saw some, or you recommended somebody or something. I can't remember. I remember you were talking. Yeah, you were talking about. You had sent me some stuff on some people, and you were talking about the grid work that you do in UK and Ireland. And I don't know if you said I want to come on, or if I said why don't you come on. But either way, you're here, so that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So welcome, Tracy. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too, and everyone who's listening.
Hmm. So you know what we always ask everybody on this show most of the time, like, have you always been this weird, or did you have a wake up experience?
Um, I don't know. I mean, weird as in trying to fit into what's supposed to be normal, I suppose.
Yeah. Different,
Um, yeah.
figuring out that everybody's not like you, and then trying to fit in.
Trying to fit in wasn't necessarily something that I, I sort of came down with an inner knowing that if I didn't fit in, it didn't really matter so much
Right.
because, everybody has their own thing, their own, ways and everything else, and that, you're not going to be totally out of place because there'll be enough of you after a certain point that will get it, but you just have to bide your time, in the beginning. I never felt weird as such. I just felt like sometimes a bit of an outsider.
Yeah. Go figure that.
Yeah.
Well, we're not outsiders anymore. But
No, definitely not.
now you mentioned to me that you've been doing grid work, which tells me you've been doing other things as well, and you have certain connections because we're guided to do these types of things, all these things, these crazy things we do. How did that start for you? Was that something that's always been with you, or did you get a visit from a galactic or an angel or just a knowing?
Again, I think it's something that has always sort of been with me from a young age. I intuitively knew that where I grew up was not going to be where I was going to stay.
Hmm.
As soon as I had the chance to travel and move on, I I took it with both hands and I ran with it. I I I got out of where I grew up. I moved on, and then through the medium of being able to sing, because I'm a singer,
Okay.
I then started traveling. I initially didn't want to travel. I wanted to perform in the West End, in London's West End. And it just so happened that maybe that wasn't meant for me, that my singing was supposed to take me further afield. And so I started singing on cruise ships
Wow.
and I traveled the world. And in turn, I feel now looking back on it that I was even doing stuff then.
Yeah.
Because every time I'd be in a certain place, I'd get a feeling for it. I'd understand the energy that was surrounding me, and I would sort of take it in, and then it would come up and out of me and it would go somewhere, like almost like I became a data collector for
Wow.
the energy that was on the planet. And I was going around collecting the data of the energy that was in that certain point and then I was transmitting it up and out so that this information could be relayed back to where it needed to go, and so that they would then understand what was happening in that sort of like geographic on the planet.
Do you think you were like removing or transmuting, converting it, or just releasing it?
It's interesting because now I know I'm doing that, whereas beforehand I was aware of doing something, but I didn't totally understand what I was doing.
Wow.
Um, I think I was also in the process helping people along the way as well,
Okay.
because there would be real pivotal points where I'd realized that this person needed my help.
Right.
So I would give them advice. I was somebody who someone people would come to and just spill everything out, and I would take it all on board, and then I'd give the advice the best as I could at the time, not saying that I was qualified for it in any way, shape or form. I didn't feel as though I was back then, but even now when I look back on those experiences and those interactions with people, I realized that I was doing something, or I was helping them in their journey along the way somehow.
And this was all intuitive.
Yeah. I say intuitive. I mean, when I was younger, I did sort of get the feeling that I was here on a bigger mission than just experiencing life.
Right.
When I was younger, I would really engulf myself in, especially more so probably where I was. I would feel the sun, I would feel the earth, I would feel the elementals around me. I'd feel like I was a part of something bigger, even when I was younger.
Wow. And did you ever have like a moment where you got full confirmation, like a lot of people did? Like uh,
Yeah.
when,
It sort of came down a chain of events, but I knew that my life on cruise ships, even though it had spanned 7, 8, 9 years, had to come to some sort of end. I That part of why I came down was not necessarily ending, but the next phase had to begin. And then my children came along, and it was quite a shock for my system, but also for me, in that something I loved doing was now coming to an end. But this was a transition period for what was to come next. I was then going to bring down two fairly evolved beings onto the planet that were, in a roundabout way, going to help me with the next phase of
wow.
what I was doing.
How old are your kids now?
My son's 17 and my daughter is 13.
Wow. So you've been awake for a long time. Sounds like.
Well, awake is quite interesting because when I came onto the planet, when I my soul came onto the planet, this body was already for 4 years and 5 months on the planet. So I'm
Really?
a walk-in. I walked in. I have no memory, and it would always confuse me for quite a long time as I was growing up. Why can I not remember anything just before I started school? Why do I have no memories of, toddling around, or even just going to nursery and interacting with other kids? I couldn't go back that far, and I couldn't understand why I didn't have those memories. I convinced myself that somebody had wiped my mind, but that fetal integration didn't happen for me. I
Wow.
walked into this body when it was, yeah, about 4.5 years old.
Was there something that happened to that physical body at 4.5 years before you walked in?
It had had a lot of problems. Um, I'm not sure about I don't think the birth was too traumatic from what my mum told me. It, I think it was what came after that. I think possibly I was getting that the soul that had this body before I embodied it was having a real problem integrating into it.
Mm.
It was suffering quite a lot. I mean, a baby that has colic and cries constantly for the first 6 months to a year of its life. My mum said that with me being the first, she was like, if this is what having a baby is all about, I don't want any more,
Wow.
because it was traumatic. And that colic had just I took it on when I took this body on, and then it just carried on. It was relentless
Really?
until I was about 16 years old. I would be crippled up in pain, doubled over with the pain that was going through my in you know my intestines and my stomach and everything else. It was really quite, I would say, now I look back on it, I'm surprised that it wasn't something that was much more than it should have been, if you understand what I'm saying. I managed to navigate taking over this body quite well, I think, because I knew what I was coming into,
But
whereas the soul that had the body before me maybe didn't quite understand what, that whole process was about. And I know for a fact that when I took it on, it didn't just have that. Later on down the line, it had sensitivities off the charts. I mean, it was in a bad way. It really was in a bad way. And I had to try and reintegrate my soul into this body that was all over the place.
so, and that took you basically 11 or 12 years.
It took me quite a long time. Yeah.
How did you bring it into equilibrium? How did you embody it?
I think maybe through a few things where I started doing gymnastics when I was 6 years old. And with the flexibility, and you push your body to go in different directions, and you push the muscles to do different things. And I became quite competitive, and I was doing that. And I found that that helped with the blockage that's obviously caused by colic. I managed to, always being active meant that whenever I wasn't active, it was more, intense. But doing movement and doing gymnastics and doing it to the degree that I was doing it at, that was helping. And then when I started singing and adding in the expanding the lung capacity, and obviously then I was helping the blood flow within my body by oxygenizing it and everything else, it gradually then became stabilized. But the singing sort of took over when I finished gymnastics. The singing took over, and I think integrating the two, singing and dancing, really helped
Wow.
with mobilizing the body and keeping it,
Yeah.
in a good way.
Yeah, I was reading the other day that blood circulation is directly related to the electrical distribution in your body.
Yeah.
And like, God, I can't remember all the details, but it was interesting. I'd never seen that before. Now, when did you realize that you were a soul that stepped in at 4.5 or 5 years? Was that something that came to you early or later?
No, that definitely came later.
Mm.
I knew that something was amiss, but I could not put my finger on it. I always questioned, obviously, like I said, why do I not have those memories? But then I started questioning, well, why am I here? Or what am I doing? I know there's a real deep seated seed inside me, a mission that I'm here to do. But what is it? But I think the time that it really came in was when, after I'd given birth to my daughter in 2009, I started realizing that my body had gotten into an unstable state again with everything that I had taken in, because traveling meant that I would be out dancing, partying, drinking. I smoked for a bit. And then, of course, recreational drugs started coming on the scene, especially when you're in those entertainment environments and everything else. And my body was getting out of whack. And then when my daughter came in, she put me back on the straight and narrow again, because it was with her energy that came through me, especially when I was pregnant with her. She was not allowing me to eat certain foods and
Really?
to, yeah, it was a real sort of like, you need to clean up your act because your body is not doing too well. And it was bad enough to begin with. And if you want to stay here, you better get it sorted out pretty quick.
Wow.
And then I realized that I needed to start changing. I started looking at my diet. I started looking at what was happening to my son, who had the same problems. Well, not a colicky baby, because I sort of made sure that didn't happen, because I wasn't going to go down the road that I was told, as far as my mum had said that she had to deal with this body when it was young. I made sure that my son wasn't colicky, but he did have intolerances, severe intolerances. And then I started questioning, well, if he's going through the same thing I went through, my intolerances aren't just a bit of trapped wind here and there. It's the foods I'm eating. Definitely down to what I'm eating. So then I started looking at my diet. I went on a juice plan after I had my daughter, and then I really started becoming aware that those things that were not right in the balance within my body were the things that I was putting in, and not something that I'd managed to sort out in the past. I'd managed to get myself to a good place, but then I started putting more toxins on top of toxins on top of toxins, and then it was starting to back my system up again. I've always been extremely sensitive. I'm an empath, and I can feel energies of people, places, and everything else. But then, of course, I was starting to get blocked up, and I was then disconnecting myself from everything. But then when my daughter came in, she put me back on the straight and narrow again, because I went AWOL.
So, have you ever had these discussions about who this part of you with your mother, daughter, or
Yeah,
son and husband?
yeah, yes. I'm very fortunate that I have an extremely open-minded family, not in the sense that my mum, even though she was brought up in the Catholic religion, because she's Irish, the youngest of 11, so
Wow.
there's quite a big family there.
So,
She was probably the most open-minded out of all of them. And then it was after a while of my husband and my children totally being open to all of this, as I then started becoming more aware of my mission, of why they were here in my life. And then we all realize that we're here together to help the planet, to help
really,
humanity.
another
Yeah, we
another
all,
ascension family. We're running into
yeah,
more and more of them. So the whole house at this point is clued in,
yeah, absolutely.
and then you're the matriarch. So everything's stemming from you. What type of mission? What type of purposes have you found so far?
With the energy healing, that has sort of come about through my husband, who is really getting into his dowsing now. He's clearly got the the knowledge that must have come down with him as well, because he can tap into earth energies. He
Really?
can he can pick up those rods and he can go down, but even without them, It's clear that there's something that he is tapping into from other lifetimes that he is now bringing forward now. So the earth energy thing, that came through me to tell him that he needed to step up. That this is sort of not get, hurry up and get on with it. It was more of a case of, you've got this. You have this knowledge and all of these things that you need, all the tools that you need, you have them. They're already in you. You just need to wake them up, tap into them, and then we need to get going with this, because we need to do certain things in certain places, and we need to help clear the Earth's energy grids.
So, so a lot of what you do is what you just said, and you do it together. You do it together.
We've started doing it together probably over the last year or so, the
Mm,
course of a year or so, but more, not more than that. But what goes along with that is that I've been told that as much as I had a great life singing on cruise ships for however many years, I now need to start using my vocal tones to help with the Earth's energy grids as well.
and what is that?
Transmute and everything. Well, the tones are resonance, just
Okay,
the same as the Earth's energy fields are vibrating. Everything, as we know, is energy.
right,
So when we can harmonize
right,
with the Earth,
right.
we're then in a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, yeah. I get that. I totally get that. We've been making music here since the summer. I never did that before. Not really, not like that. Um, and I noticed that, like we did one last night. It was our third night in a row, and I don't even know what happened. I can't even explain. Now, we did introduce gongs. Yeah, we had his voice, my voice. He has a keyboard. He plays a guitar, flute, and we had incorporated the gongs into it. But by the time we got done, we both looked at each other like, "What the heck just happened?" But it felt like, I don't know how to. It felt like the result you might get from toning, or
Hmm.
even any type of expression involving resonance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really becoming obvious to me that these types of methods, which to me are a lot more fun
Yeah.
than some of the modalities we've had to go through to clean ourselves up, but
Yeah.
I feel like that they're going to be much more prominent as the days go by, very quickly even.
Yeah. I've been getting that message too, so much so that part of me wanted to go back singing on cruise ships, and to go back after, I've sort of had sporadic parts where I could go back into singing, and then I'd come out, and then I'd go back into my gymnastics or coaching, and then I'd come out, because obviously my body, I need to keep it moving. I
Right.
know when things feel stagnant and everything else, but more so bringing in the sounds and the tones and the harmonies and resonating with Mother Earth, so that she knows that we're here for her,
Yeah.
is something that is really going to be quite huge in the next phase of this. And I have the singing bowls, and I have all of these other things, and I'm going to start taking those to certain parts, and I'm going to start creating harmonics in the resonant tones and helping transmute some of what is embedded in the land, because there is still pockets of energy,
Mm, mm-hmm.
trauma and stuff that need releasing. There are people that can go right down into Earth's energy grids and they can pull stuff up, but then when it comes to the surface, it needs to be taken up and out. Otherwise, that's going to start resonating in people's bodies, and it's going to get trapped there.
So that's what you were doing and didn't know it when you were, yeah, you
I
were,
was I was basically collecting data for where the pockets of trauma were still stuck.
God,
What was still
that's.
stuck here? What was still stuck here? What was still stuck here? Where it needed, and then people would be sent to those places to start bringing up through the Earth's energy grids all of the trauma that has been held in there for billions of years. Who knows? I mean, it could have been there for, I don't know how long has this incarnation of humans, angelic humans, been here. I mean, we could go back even further and back even further and back even further. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that this planet has had to take on.
Oh yeah,
she,
no doubt.
she is such an amazing celestial being for everything that she has endured.
She's the queen.
She
She's
is.
the queen. I don't see. My friend up here, Karen. Hi, Karen. Hadn't seen you in a while. I don't have the same number I used to have. She's not on Facebook much, but she said that she had a similar experience and supported a soul that didn't want to commit to the journey at birth versus at 4 years old. So these things are fascinating. That to think that all this time these things have been going on, people having the knowing, like both of you have, in a similar situation, and we don't talk about it because it's got to be a lot more rampant than we think. The other thing that your story so far brings to light is the collaboration and, well, let's just say the collaboration and coordination of our multi aspects, as well as collaboration with other beings that are walking the planet. Like you go through a cycle of 8 or 9 years identifying code. Sounds like releasing some of it, and then other people come in behind you and do the work because that's their specialty, right? Like you know what I mean? Like the higher selves communicating to the human selves, and this stuff is happening.
Yeah.
Because I mean, some of these people would have been not even known you, right? Most of them probably don't even know you. You just went. You have the knowing that you went and identified the spot, removed what you could, and then they're going to go in and do the work. I find that very, very encouraging. I really do.
And obviously, as a lot of people have talked about, that huge wave of energy that came in 2012, that was just so pivotal to then bringing to light other people that were going to help with this, that then they then became more aware and awakened to the fact that they have a part to play in this. Everyone has a part to play in this.
Yeah.
And sometimes somebody just needs to be the forerunner, like as we understand the 3 waves of volunteers.
Right.
There's always going to be that first wave, and then the next wave, and then the next wave. But for me, it was a case of being part of the ground crew, not necessarily from the beginning, but knowing that I was here for a bigger mission and doing that, whether it be semi aware or whatever. I knew that something was going on. I knew that I was never going to stay in one place. And then I've discovered I'm sort of more of a cosmic traveler. I sort of travel around from galaxy, universe to galaxy, and around the cosmos. Whenever there's a point that needs some help or assistance, I will go in. I'm like the crew that goes in, finds out what's going on, and then gives the data to wherever it needs to go, and then the others will come in behind me. But then sometimes if they're behind me, I will then be behind them,
Right.
to then the next phase. And that's what's happened with me in this incarnation. I was the ground crew, or I was someone who went in and collected the data. But now, with the next wave of people waking up in 2012, or understanding more of their mission, or understanding more of their purpose for being here, rather, then I'm sort of like, right, okay, I've done my bit, but I'm not done. I'm here to then let's get sort of like let's get us all together, and let's start now finding out where we can help transmute those energies. I've been put on certain places on the planet, even after my children were born, even after I started traveling. I didn't stop traveling. We've moved so many places. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
I've lived in Dubai for 4 years. I've been to a small island off the west coast of Scotland called Isla, which was, I would say, probably a fairly dense,
Really?
maybe a lot of trauma through, Vikings coming in, because it was the first port of call as they came down. There's a lot of trauma in that little island and that piece of land. I was there for a couple of years, and they had me doing some quite heavy, dense work when I was there to try and lift some of what had been so embedded. It was really quite hard work. It took a lot of my being to do what I did there. It really threw me.
Wow. And how do you get the information as to where you need to go, what you need to
We are
do?
I think we're probably divinely guided. I mean, my husband's job has meant that he's a chef, and we have managed to travel.
Mm,
And I intuitively sort of knew after that big wave in 2012 that there was a bigger part of what was coming next. So in 2013, by the end of 2013, my husband had stopped working in London in the rat race, and we were living in Dubai.
wow. Not a bad place to be a chef. Get paid.
Well, the hours were much they were better for him, put it that way.
I'm sure the money was
And
good too in Dubai.
I'm not going to go into it in too much detail, but if you think that it's a tax-free country, then you're wrong.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that, but I just know
Yeah.
that it's what, the richest country in the world, basically. I mean, they give money away, don't they? Like, I don't know.
To the
Propaganda.
locals, I think to the
Yeah, to the locals.
locals, but they're only 11% of the population there. The rest
Really?
are expats. Yeah.
Was that right?
Yeah.
Now, okay. So, do you have, has your family, your household, have you had what normal, whatever, might think is weird? Like, have you had paranormal experiences or angelics, galactics? Yeah, I can tell. You're talking to your husband. We have to get your husband on too. We'll have to do this
You
again.
do.
Yeah,
I said,
we
he
have to
said
get
to me, "I'm not going on. That's not my thing. I haven't got nothing to talk about." What he doesn't understand is he's got plenty to talk about.
yeah.
When he gets in a room, he can really hold it, and he can hold it for a
Well,
long time as well.
he
Because
can't be anything less than he is if he's hanging out with you, you know? So, but yeah, I mean, no rush, no worries, no stress. We'll just as time goes on. But yeah, have you had? Well, I mean, I think it's one thing, and it's very important. It's one thing for people to have individual divine episodes or visitations or whatever that might be. It's another thing when you start to have two, or and three are there, four are there. We've met some interesting ascension families in the last 2 or 3 months. It's very interesting to be to gain access to the information of a household such as that. Or how's your household?
so I'd say I'm. I'll go more recently. There was a new crop circle that had just been done, and it was 20 minutes away from where we were living at the time.
Wow.
And my husband follows the crop circle page on Facebook. I think there's a few of them out there. I think he follows one of them, one of many. And we had already been to a crop circle probably 3 or 4 days before that, and the experience in there was really, really mind blowing. But this particular one was something that 3 out of 4 of the family experienced. It was me, my husband, and my daughter.
Wow.
So this crop circle had literally just appeared, and I think it had been discovered that morning. And my husband found it, and he said, "Oh, we'll go there. We'll go and see that one. Maybe tomorrow after I finish work or whatever. I went, no, we have to go now. He's like, what? I
Well,
said, no, I've been told if we go now, they have got something they want to show us. And he was like, right. I said, yeah, and we need to bring Amelie with us. She has to come. So I went upstairs. Amelie, we're going to a crop circle now. Quick, get your stuff on, and off we went. We all jumped in the car, and off we went to the next crop circle. And we got there, and it was sort of so it's 8 o'clock in the evening, but you're talking like August, July. I think it was August, and it wasn't dark yet, but the sun was definitely on its way down. So we get there, and I think there were two gentlemen in there, one with a drone, and he was doing his obviously taking aerial picture and everything else of it. So we sort of acknowledged them, hello, everything. And then my husband had his rods, so he goes and douses the crop circle for the energy vortexes that are within the crop circle. And me and my daughter were walking around just feeling the energy, and she was taking pictures with her phone and everything, and it was all quite nice. And then as I come round, because I always walk around the crop circles in a clockwise fashion, it's something that I was told to do, start from a certain point and follow the energy round clockwise. So I get to coming back to the top point, and as I get there, all of a sudden, all of us, so it was me, my husband, and my daughter, and the two gentlemen, just look up and we're like, and the sunset was something like you would see the what's it the borealis,
Aurora Borealis.
yeah, that's it. But it was in an orange and deep red formation, and it was waving. It was the most glorious sunset I have ever seen in my life.
Wow.
And all five of us were awestruck. It was something that had come down from the heavens, or it was it really was a sight to be seen. And we all just stood there. And these two gentlemen had been talking before, but I turned around and I could see everyone like this.
Really?
We were just, and it was a spectacle that was seen for at least 20 minutes, half an hour, but it was only the five of us that got to see it. And I was like, this is amazing.
I wonder if anyone could have seen it if they were, like, say, a kilometer away. Makes you wonder. Like it was for y'all, like it was for y'all or something, right?
Yeah, it did seem like that, because what had happened was there was a break in the clouds, because there was a cloud formation that was above it. And then here's the horizon where the land is. And of course, they like to do crop circles that have a lot of space, and they tend to be up on hills, or they can be down. But this one was definitely more elevated. And we literally had this sort of like this panoramic view of this sunset, which was just awe-inspiring. And we all stood there, and I was just aghast. I was like, and my daughter was like, Mum, I can't believe this. This is amazing. And I was like, I know. It's just amazing. My husband then started talking to the two gentlemen with the drone. And then they were talking about, obviously, debunking crop circles and everything else. They were.
They thought that the crop circles weren't real.
They say that some of them are and some of them aren't.
That's to me like the biggest cop out. But I was just thinking about this because we don't talk about it much. We just it's never come up on the show very much or for very long. But I know there's sites that track them, and there seems to be I don't know that much about them, but there seems to be a lot of them in the UK. Are they in other parts of the world too? I would imagine, but it just seems like there's an inordinate amount of them in the UK, which is,
It's because the land has chalk underneath it, and it's a conductor. And I do believe that a lot of the UK, or a big part of the UK, has a lot of water underneath it as well. And of course, with all the crops being able to grow and everything else, it becomes a conductor. And I think it just makes it easier for them to create what they need to create, maybe possibly using the chalk formation. And apparently they're near sacred sites. My husband's just said they're near sacred sites.
Yeah.
So they are sending messages. They each one has a clear message. But when you actually step inside the crop circle, that's when you're open to it, you get the messages.
Wow. That's powerful. What I'm just curious. We'll get off of it, but what does the British government have to say about crop circles?
Well, they debunk everything. They think that Doug and Dave has gone out there in the middle of the night with their fork and their shovel and started flattening
Man, there's no
the
way.
crop.
You would have to be amazingly coordinated with many
When you
people,
see, when you
satellites.
see them, hmm.
Yeah, there's just no way. I mean, it's just like,
Well, this is a funny story because obviously my husband's talking to these two gentlemen that were talking about debunking the crop circles. And during this conversation, me and my daughter has stood probably, I'd say, a good couple of feet in front of them. But my lot wanted me to hear what they were saying. So I'm looking at the sunset, and then when they start talking, I'm starting to listen to what they're saying. So of course they're talking about all the ways that they can be debunked and how they can be done and everything else. Anyway, that this part of what the amazing thing that was going to happen in the crop circle, that there's another part to this, but let me just say this. They listened to what those guys were saying, and then the next crop circle that they did following that one, it was really basic, very basic. If you just looked at it, it was literally just like your normal sort of hexagon shape with another, you know shape inside. And they literally had just taken out the middle and just done a shape around the outside, so it was fairly thick going all the way around. Now that one would have been easy to debunk because there was nothing intricate about it at all. But here's the funny thing: they made sure that whoever was trying to debunk that, or those with the conversation that had happened, they did that crop circle, and then the following night they changed it completely.
really?
And then, yes, literally within a 24-hour period, they took that basic one, and it had already had all the lines. You could actually see them. They'd already been done, and they took little parts out.
Wow.
And then the next day, it was something absolutely amazing and absolutely wonderful. So they did that for a reason. I think they were wanting humanity to understand, look, we can do the basic stuff, and then we can change it just like that.
So what happens when they do these crop circles? They go in then and mow the crops down? I mean,
Yeah.
like to try to hide them?
Well, I think what you mean after they've been done.
After they're done. Yeah, after they're
Well,
done.
what happens is it depends on what land, whose farmland that is, and how open the farmer is to letting people onto their land and into the crop circles. I think some of them have actually in the past, or maybe even this year, have started charging people for going into the crop circle
Jeez. Wow.
to make
Wow.
some money out of it. It's happened on my land. I might as well make some money out of it.
There's got to be some kind of link though. I mean, like Avalon, or I mean, we're talking about old, 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 ancient.
Very, very
Yeah.
old, ancient. I mean, I don't know how this will be received, or whether or not it will be received in any way, shape, or form, but some say that obviously we understand about Atlantis and how it fell and everything else, but there are still parts of Atlantis that are still visible, and that a part of Atlantis is England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. That is the part that is still
I get you.
there.
They're still above. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a connection, too, with Atlantis. I've seen that, Randall Carlson showing a map of Atlantis, and there's what's left that's still sticking up, basically. It was a
The
part of
plateau
that. Yeah.
through the Atlantic Ocean. There's a part that's been raised. There's a plateau,
Right.
and it's not as deep as the rest. Well, that would have been where the shock waves would have been sent up when Atlantis fell.
Wow, this is good information. It's interesting.
And there are still parts of Atlantis
Now, what is
that
that?
are
Okay, I got you.
the Bermuda
Yeah. Yeah.
Islands are part of Atlantis.
Now, I wonder too, like with the crop circle thing, because there's obviously not one star family involved here.
No.
There's probably who knows how many. So
Yeah.
I wonder sometimes, is there a connection between pre things that have happened prior in history in a specific area, say UK, and the galactics that are based there or communicate there? Do you get a galactic feel for your information that comes through? Does it feel like it's galactic? Does it? I mean, it doesn't matter, but I'm just wondering.
Well, I would say that Ireland, especially because I really do have I would say a very strong lineage, because my mother's Irish and obviously my grandparents are Irish, but on my father's side, my great grandparents are Irish.
Well,
So whenever I'd go over to Ireland, when I was a young girl and we'd go over for holidays, I never wanted to leave. I didn't want to go back to England. I just didn't. I felt a strong connection there, and I always have done. And I go back not as often as I'd like to, but I went back this year with my mum because I was told to, because I needed to do some energy work there.
okay.
And I went to the Lion's Gate, 8-8. I was on the hill of Tara, clearing some of the energy from that sacred site.
Do you know what that energy was?
I would say that from what I could get from what was coming through for me, I'm now going to say that I was helping to release some of the trauma from the Pleiadian star system, because Ireland is really connected to the Pleiades.
Yeah. Well, yeah. One of many places, I think. I mean, there's.
But there are quite a few sites there
Yeah.
that
Well, there's
were,
no doubt. I mean, there's no doubt that the UK, if you go back to what we've been given of history, and you also go back and look at the what the Earth looked like, or even speculate. Well, they don't speculate now. I mean, they can pretty much tell you what it looked like. First of all, it was a very big area,
yeah.
and for all intents and purposes, part of Atlantis. And then, of course, you have the evolution of it. And you have ultimately this very small island that's for what, and even maybe even to this day, the most powerful region in the world.
So you really do have to question, why is it so powerful? Why is it so powerful?
Yeah.
It's because of what it was once part of.
Yeah, I mean, it gives credence to the narrative that there are many, many PowerPoints there, and that
Many.
through the demise of our intelligence, or whatever you want to call it, that those that held the esoteric knowledge utilized those spots, such as where the castles are, where certain things are placed, In Italy's example might be the Vatican. I mean, I don't think these structures were put there. In fact, I think they were already there, and somebody just took it over and kind of usurped the power, or took the power. That's. I don't know. What part of England are you in?
So I'm at the moment in Southampton, not far from Southampton Airport. So I'm right down on the south coast.
Okay.
In the it's sort of like in the middle. If you were to look at it's sort of like in the middle, with Cornwall being over here and then Kent being over here. Sort of spotted in the middle. Not far away from places like Stonehenge and Winchester. Winchester is actually, Winchester's a big one.
Yeah. What about the people in England? I mean, there's so much propaganda out there. We don't know what's going on. I was just watching some video.
I knew you were going to ask this question. I knew you were going to ask.
Because we're connected or something. You're an ET. You're reading my mind. No, but I saw a video. I had to go on DuckDuckGo, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
If you really want to try to find out what's going on, you got to get off of the Googles and the. But in Brazil, millions of people, literally millions of people, have hit the streets in defiance of the government. Now, you don't see that on the news. And so my question is, like, England is no doubt a very, very powerful, pivotal place. And without getting caught up in the human narrative either. I'm talking energy here. And to me, the basis of the energy, the potential of the energy's possibility to transform, is all going to come down to the people. And I just wonder, I know England is big, and I'm sure like Texas and other parts of the world, you have different parts that have different neighborhoods and different cultural aspects. But like overall, what's your take on it, on the people in England? Are they awake? Or is there a significant number awake?
That is not very easy to gauge, to be honest. I mean, obviously David Icke was a big part of the awakening here. He obviously had a big part to play. So without a doubt, he's woken up millions of people, I would say.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Millions and millions. My husband and I actually went to go and see him in Southampton. When we first came back from Dubai, we realized that he was going to be, but it all had to be hush hush even back then. They were I think he was being messed about with where he could go or where he could hold his talk. So we literally got given the information of where it was right at the last minute.
Wow. How long ago was this?
Back in 2018.
Wow, yeah. So that's about the time he was not allowed to go to Australia. And, of course, they just barred him. They just barred him from going to any other European country just last week. He's on the Isle of Wight.
He is, and we've been to the Isle of Wight. I did some stuff on the Isle of Wight as well.
That doesn't surprise me. But I would think, too, like we spend, because of the way everything's presented and because of our experience and probably because of many mind wipes, I think, personally. I don't think we just got wiped coming in or out of the womb. I think we got wiped a lot. Some of us more than others. But so a lot of our conversation and focus is on the the BS and on the propaganda and all the stuff that we know is not cool. But at the same time, we've got the other side too. We have a lot of protection. These aspects tend to play by different rules, universal rules. And I just wonder about him, because he's been on the show a couple times, and I asked him at one point. Well, I had actually seen it on a show, but I asked him about it, even though I knew the answer because he had already answered it, which was, don't you worry about these people that you're talking about coming out to get you, whatever. And his answer is, he doesn't think about it. It's not in his field. It's not in his universe.
No.
But you wonder, how can a guy be living on Isle of Wight? It's not that big a place. Be so loud, so persistent. There's got to be some form of protection. He's got to be. He's probably living in a place that's no coincidence.
Yeah, he's got a big team, and when you look at where he is now, what with his sons,
Yeah.
They were always going to be there
Yeah.
backing him up. There was no doubt about the fact that they came in knowing
Yeah.
what they were going to be doing. Again, like quite a few families, they know when those children come in, when those souls come in, they know that they're there for a purpose, to back up whoever needs,
Right.
whatever at that time. And his sons, and
Even his first
yeah,
wife, I think the second wife too, or whatever that arrangement was. But when I asked him at the end of the show, I don't remember. I think it was the first show we did, and he went into that. He talked about how his family, he has that, and that I think what he was saying is that's what I'm most grateful for.
absolutely, definitely but then when you think about it, I mean, if they can create things by design, then so can we.
That's right. That's the whole thing. See?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, because we spend so much time. If you look at the light workers, look at these communities, and not that it wasn't necessary, or maybe it's still necessary. I'm just trying to make a point.
Mm-hmm.
We spend so much time on our heels looking at shadows. You can't look at shadows. You can't continuously point out division and separation in the field or within yourself without having judgment.
Yeah.
So the judgment is the payoff of the suggested consciousness that they try to put out there. So, but if we turn around and start to create, had this lady was on. Was it yesterday? I can't remember anything anymore. I think it was a lady who was on yesterday, an older lady, and I can't remember who it was. And she was talking about sitting in her house, basically, doing grid work all over the earth for 25 years.
Yeah.
Like, how many of them is there?
Yeah.
And is the difference between their efforts physicalizing, manifesting in our experience, just the fact that we get the word out there that they're actually doing it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, is that all it's going to take?
Well, and obviously we've been given help by the energies that have come in, and they've obviously helped that not only us but the planet, and they still continue to do that. So the more that's coming in, and the more that we can embody those energies that are coming in, and then we can ground them into the earth, and then we can help transmute all that needs to be let go, everything that, all the trauma and everything else. And, we can then start lifting the planet, and she will work with us and we will work with her, and we will change what has been going on for eons and eons and eons of time. We will start to lift the planet's vibration, and as that happens, she's helping us lift our vibration. We're going to help her by bringing the energy in that's coming through the sun and coming through the galactic rays and everything else, and then we will be in partnership helping each other. And she really does, she wants to help us, because we are the guardians. The human angelics are the guardians of this planet.
God, what a crazy planet! What a amazing, beautiful planet! But all over the place. I mean, it's all over the place. How do you think we're doing now?
I really think that we turned a corner. I would say, with the wave that came in 2012, that obviously started something that then created a momentum and kept going and kept going and kept going. I definitely felt a shift in 2017 and then again in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, this is it. We're now on the trajectory. And then at the beginning of 2020, I was like, no, someone put the brakes on. What happened?
But was it
But
really the brakes, though?
But that's the thing. I thought and felt that as that being what it was. But
Mm-hmm.
now when you go over and you're on the other side of it,
Yeah.
you think, no, that was worth that needed to happen.
Yeah. It
That
was
was
brilliant.
definitely worth it.
It was a brilliant
It was.
stroke. Yeah.
It was absolutely 100%, just what the planet needed, just what humanity needed. We needed a break from the rat race.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we
We
needed it.
needed, yeah, sorry, we
Yeah.
needed just to get
Yeah.
ourselves.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, it was a major disruption to the norm, to the abnormal that
Yes.
we had taken on as normal. How about your children and young people? Maybe they're friends, but are you picking up anything from? Are they picking up things telling you? Because we're getting all kinds of stories and sometimes guests on here. Little kids telling their parents, "I'm from a blue planet. I'm here to use my astrophysicist skills and apply them to the Earth and clean up the Earth." Or another family that the entire family, 10 of them. She's actually going to come on, I think, in a couple of days again. They talk to their ET aspects, the whole family. The young ones draw pictures. I could tell you just story after story after story. I have a friend of mine who lives in Texas. She has a piece of land. She has a 4-year-old daughter. 4-year-old daughter's always telling her, I go to the rainbow world. Sometimes I see rainbow people. Mommy, what are those colors around you today? I mean, stuff like that. Do y'all pick up anything like that? Or if you can talk about it.
I would say that my son, he came down as what would probably be classed as one of the pure innocents. When he came down, he was just so laid back. It was unbelievable. Such a child of like, oh, I've been here loads of times before. Christmas, well, loads of presents under the tree. I'm not interested in all that. Just give me one and I'll just play with it, and I'll just keep myself entertained, because it was like he'd been here, like, I suppose you'd class an old soul or whatever else, but
Mm-hmm.
it was just, and also the maturity of a baby when you see them. He would not take risks. He wasn't a risk taker, not even so. He wasn't new to this.
Mm-hmm.
He knew if I did that, that was going to happen, and that's not right. Don't put my fingers there. Don't do this. Don't do it. He just intuitively knew everything when
Wow.
he was from a young baby.
Wow.
And he used to attract the attention of everyone around him. We'd go places, and all of a sudden we'd have this group of people behind us cooing, and, oh, aren't you lovely? Aren't you gorgeous? Oh, you're so angelic like, and everything. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, where did they all come from? My husband, I don't know. He's just created a crowd behind us. I don't know what's going on. So he had that when he came. But I will say just one thing, that when he was vaccinated with the MMR jab, it hit him hard. It totally changed his brainwave frequency, totally.
Wow.
And it took me a long time to get him back to where he needed to be.
Was he open to that as you started to help him, or was he resistant?
No, he's never really been resistant to anything.
So there was nothing to your so based on what you're saying, most likely there was nothing like a psychological change. This was a wave change, an energetic change through the.
He went from being a fun-loving child that got on with everyone to being the disruptive, non-coherent, not wanting to do anything, not listening to teacher not wanting to. I mean,
Wow.
literally, he changed overnight, and even the nursery teacher said, "I don't know what's happened, but Adam has really changed,"
Wow.
and it changed literally overnight.
But you were able to, or he was able, with your help, to come back to where he was.
It took a lot of research of me going down that rabbit hole of the vaccinations and everything else to actually understand what had been put into his body
Do you,
and check out the chemicals in it.
yeah. Do you feel like that what he's done since, you came in and facilitated and helped him, do you feel like that was the change brought on by energy work, or was it brought on by some other means?
It was lifting the heavy metals out of his body, taking them out bit by bit with various herbs and
Wow.
various things. As we know, I think it's coriander. I think it's called cilantro
Yeah,
in
cilantro,
America.
coriander. Yeah,
That as soon as that goes into the body, the heavy metals latch onto that,
yeah.
and it takes that toxin out. Again, strawberry seeds can carry heavy metals out of the body.
God,
These are all things that are alien that shouldn't be
I
put
don't,
into.
I don't think we understand yet, because I still feel that we will physically disengage from every part of the matrix, including banking and driver's licenses and visas, borders.
Yeah.
I don't see how it can go any other way. It doesn't have to, but in order to, I don't know, maximize our experience or our potential, I would think that it only makes sense. I mean, what's the difference between a program that has a non-physical property and a driver's license? What's the difference
Yeah.
between releasing that? Because if you have a driver's license, you're automatically following the rules, and there's
Yeah.
no rules, And
Yeah.
so this is the whole quagmire here that we're faced with. But I was going to ask you, God, you just, I don't think people, me included, because I just found out some more information. Like, I started looking into some of the, like, Advil, ibuprofen, naxiproxen, the other one. There are studies, and I mean studies from, like, Hopkins or Big Medical, UCLA, where even taking ibuprofen, all right,
Yeah.
that there's strong evidence or testing or history of testing where within, I don't know what it is, I want to say 6 to 8 months. In other words, one dosage or one amount, I don't know if it's like 4 pills, 800 milligrams, they have a history of people going right into a depression
Yeah.
and that lasting, an extended period of time. I mean, and that's just one thing, and it makes you wonder. Like, on one hand, you go, "Wow, we are incredible. We've gone through the
Yeah.
GMOs and the fluoride and the chemtrails and
Yeah.
all the other stuff they've thrown at us. Yet, what if we just stopped it?"
Yeah.
It's not even the ingestion, the physical ingestion. To me, it's the implanted consciousness that comes from, I got to take this.
Yeah.
It's the only solution.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to take it because it's right there. It's quick and easy instead of finding the plant,
Yeah.
Or no, I'm not going to have a driver's license. I'm not doing it. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen to me? Right? I mean, really, what's going to happen to me? I mean,
Yeah.
we don't know what's going to happen. But we do know what's going to happen if we keep participating in this stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, look at your politics over there. Look at our politics over here. It's crazy. Yeah. We got a president that goes to a worldwide G20 forum, and he can't even talk. He can't even talk. He's in front of the whole world, and it's like it's like the emperor with no clothes. Seriously, and
Yeah.
they were showing a like a like a note sheet somebody had typed up for him at the place, right? Because the press over there is allowed to move around. I saw this today, and on his sheet it says, "Here's the words you say. You go sit down, stand up. No, you can see it. Sit down, stand up. Like, whoa. I mean, and so it's almost like I don't know. They're going to see
A
what
show.
yeah, like they're going to see what they can get away with. Like, really,
Yeah.
how far can we push you?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I mean, let's be honest, it's getting louder and louder and louder. I
Oh,
mean,
it's ridiculous loud.
beforehand they used to be able to make us think that they were going to actually make a change and do something. But now, look what they've got up there representing what's supposed to be somebody who's going to make, the next big change for this and the next for that, and just look. I mean, you couldn't come up with anyone more, out there and more sort of like
It's everywhere though. It's
incapable of being able to do the job.
yeah.
And
It's
it's the same here in the UK, but
hmm
it's become like a revolving door at number 10.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
one in, one out, one in, one out. Well, you know what? I'm not sure I want to do this. You ever go? Oh, what about you? It's literally like a comedy of errors.
Well,
I'm not watching a play.
yeah. And my thing is just simply to try something different. Now I'm in an environment over the last 10 years where I've been able to see a lot of different practitioners and healers and modalities, and I'm a big believer. I don't think you can argue with the placebo effect,
No.
right? I mean, it's been proven throughout history. It's a fact. It happens all the time. And I think about practitioners, whatever the affliction is, whatever the situation is, as a practitioner, they open up their space. The client opens up their space. There's a certain placebo effect potential there, but we're not going to find them if we're taking Advil and we're abiding by these supposed laws and rules. We're not,
No.
So I don't know. Well,
No. Yeah,
it's
absolutely. I mean, sort of being along those lines of I knew that I wanted to find out about different modalities. I
mm,
know that in past lives I have been a healer,
right,
and I know that I was ridiculed for it,
right,
and I was also, I went through one of those burning at the stakes
sure,
sort of, but scenarios. So that it was pretty, and that is why this time around I was given a different modality, as opposed to I used to do what would probably have been called quackery back then. I used to be an alchemist with the herbs and everything else, which is why I went down the road of looking at that to remove the heavy metal toxins out of my son,
right,
because something was already there. But then with the other modalities, I started looking at, well, if my brain, if I can comprehend things that are outside of myself, if I don't just stay limited to this 3D experience and I can go further outside into other fields, then there must be records or something I can tap into then. And
mm-hmm,
that's when QHHT came into my reality, and I studied Dolores Cannon's technique, for which I'm not necessarily a practitioner of sorts. I mean, I have now started thinking, well, maybe I could utilize this, considering that I'm working with the Earth's energy fields. I sort of understand in one geographic what sort of tends to be a sort of a pattern that is forming within the collective that happens to be there. So maybe if I can help transmute some energies there, if anyone was looking for something that they would want to do on a one-to-one basis,
right.
I could tap into that as well, being in that place and able. to tap into the lineage that's happened there,
Right.
and others having an understanding of the trauma that's happened there that is perpetuating it, and obviously the people that live there perpetuating it too. It's like a vicious cycle of them reliving their history and their past, and then it's implanted in the earth, and then it goes back through down into her, and then it comes up, and then she wants to try and transmute it, but then it only gets to a certain point where it's then hit another
Mm-hmm.
like blockage, which is in the collective of the people living there, and then they put it back down into her again, and it just keeps doing this. So until someone breaks that cycle, it's never going to transmute. And when I went over to a certain place, I had to go in and I had to transmute the wounded feminine. That whole area, I had to transmute the wounded feminine. I had to bring it up, out, and then I had to embody it myself. And I had to
Embody the wounded feminine.
yes, I had to take on all of the trauma that had happened in that geographic. I had to agree that I would take it on, and then I would release it and transmute it,
Right.
because there was too many blockages. People were not releasing it, and the people that lived there were just living in perpetual, it was just going round and round and round in a circle. And even the visitors that came over, they then started getting sucked into it because there was so much there. It was just staying stuck, it wasn't going anywhere.
Right.
So it
Well,
needed releasing.
hopefully, I don't think hopefully, I know we're making progress. There's too many people like you all over the world. And there's too many people like your son all over the world, and your husband,
And my and my
your
daughter
daughter,
as well.
your
I mean,
daughter.
she chooses to go to school. I would prefer her not to go to school, and she knows this, because I don't agree with the system. I haven't for a long, long time. A long time. And at one point I was homeschooling her when we were in Dubai, because I didn't want to send her to a school there, because you have to pay. Any school you go to in Dubai, you're talking a lot of money. You're talking Oxford and Cambridge fees just to go to a
Jeez.
normal school.
Wow.
It was ridiculous. So I was like, no, no, I'm homeschooling. But then they have their own system. Whereas if the child is out of the schooling system for a certain amount of time, you've then got to notify the government and everything else. So I was like, well, your hands are pretty much tied when you're not living in your own country, when you can't really get to grips with what is happening there and what is acceptable and what isn't. And to be honest, it would have been too hard for me to try and traverse that for the amount of time that we were there. So
Yeah.
I then sent her back to school. But then she chooses to go to school. And I said to her, right, okay, fine. If I have to take you, I have to take you. It's your life. It's your decision. You do what you want to do. But when she's there, I know now what she's doing.
She knows what she's doing.
She's helping.
Yeah, she
She's
knows what she's doing.
I know.
She
And
does.
and for me, that's just a wonderful thing, because
Yeah.
I know she knows what she's doing. I know my son knows what he's doing. My husband knows what he's doing. It's great to be in a household like this, and I am grateful for it. But I know that it was by design.
Yeah, of course.
Things
Of
don't
course.
happen without there being,
No.
a good especially when you have that many souls
Yeah.
in one household, all understanding what they're doing. But yeah, no, without a doubt, the younger generations are coming down with
Yeah.
their DNA strands, more their DNA strands turned on.
Yeah.
They have more of an understanding of why they're here. They know what's coming next, and some of them are. I feel as though they're waiting in the wings for certain things to take place so that they can then step forward and then play their part. Sometimes I feel as though the devices that they're given are not necessarily the best thing, but at the end of the day, it's something that my son is a tech whiz. You can give him something and he will just pick it up and just know how it works. And I'll be like, I'm pretty tech savvy to a certain degree, but no, I mean these ones that have come down in the advancement of the technological age have just come down with it already. It's just already there. They pick something up and they know how to use it straight away. But what I feel is that hopefully that technology is going to be used for the greater good.
It will. It will. It's all coming together.
Because of who's coming up behind, of what's coming up.
Think about all the babies that were conceived during the 2 years of COVID.
Yeah.
That's what I think about. I think, oh my God, this is like, it's so ironic, but it makes sense. You know what I mean?
And there are so many more, maybe, galactics that are coming and embodying to come and help.
Yeah.
They understand that, there needed to be a critical mass to be able to help the planet to get to where she has wanted to go for a long time. And and we are supposed to be her guardians. We're supposed to be the ones protecting her. We're the ones supposed to be helping her, and yet obviously we've been flipped into doing other things that have not been very helpful to her.
Well, I would say we got duped, but we can only use that excuse for so long.
Yes, that's true. That is absolutely true. Yeah, we did, but there's definitely more.
You mentioned
now.
You mentioned Atlantis.
Yeah.
One of I think the more general narratives is that we had this level of technology. Maybe it was a different path of technology, but certainly crystals and etc. But we didn't have the spiritual maturity. There's quite a few narratives out there, whatever, channelings, whatever, that have said we have reached the level of spirituality necessary to take on the same or bigger level of technology as in Atlantis. But we haven't seen it in the physical, but in the energetic field it's already happened. And the first thing you want to do is you want to agree to it and say, oh, yeah, because that means everything's going to be okay. Right? But we don't know. I mean, what do you have any feel for that? Do you have any thoughts on whether we've gotten past a certain tipping point and we're just now playing it out in the physical?
No, it's definitely something that when I think about it, I think that as long as we understand that we are the guardians of this planet,
right,
and that we have her best interests at heart,
right,
regardless of what any government says, regardless of what any local authority says, regardless of it, we make sure that we start building those groups that are going to go, no, you're not fracking there, no, you're not drilling there, no, you're not doing this, no, we don't need this, and we need to come together and we need to really just bond and unify and understand that we are as much a part of this planet and she's as much a part of us. And until we get there, when it's not going to materialize, it's not going to come into our field of reality. What happened in Atlantis was, yes, there was obviously a balance of too much intellect and not enough spirituality. So then obviously when things tip and they go too far one way, that's it. You're going to end up with what happened in Atlantis. Those crystal temples and everything that were there, they were in and embedded into Earth's energy grids. They were sustaining the life force and everything else, and then it just got too overloaded, it got too imbalanced, and then it just flipped. It just went AWOL. There is another reason as to why that happened, and obviously we need to sort of acknowledge the fact that this planet has stargates into and out of the planet, and they are intricately placed. And obviously we understand that Giza that is one of the stargates, one of 12 stargates on this planet. And they are pivotal to her energy field as well. When they are in the right hands, then we are good. Or if there's more of them in the right hands, then we're good. But if
How
there's
about
more of
all
them,
of them?
that would be great. That would be great. I'd like that to happen. But as far as getting to that level, it is all on us,
Yeah.
and like you
Yeah, it
keep
is.
saying, the human is the hero, the human aspect, the human
Yeah.
angelic is the guardian. They are the heroes. We can get help from our galactic brothers and sisters all the way as much as we want to, but we are the boots on the ground.
That's
We
right.
are.
That's
And
right.
we're here for each other. So as much as I can help the energy grids, as much as I can help people release some of what they don't need, so then they can come into their own alignment and understanding of why they're here.
Yeah.
I've always been all for that. I've always been here for that.
Right on. Great show. I'm sorry I kept you an hour and a half.
That's all right. That's
Hey,
fine.
best to you and your husband and your kids, and we'll catch up again sometime next year.
Absolutely. Yep.
And thank
Okay.
you. Thank you very,
Bye.
very
Take
much. I
care.
appreciate it. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Oh, and by the way, it was Franco that brought me to you. I found him and he helped me clear some stuff with his guided meditations. He was such a pivotal person, or an energy soul in my
Yeah.
expansion of where I needed to go. I'm just, it's beyond gratitude for
Yeah,
that
he's
soul.
very,
He's
very
one of a
special.
kind.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you for mentioning that. You take
Oh,
care.
and you.
Peace out
Bye.
to you, everybody. See y'all later.